Start each day with a task completed. Find someone to help you through life. Respect everyone. Know that life is not fair and that you will fail often. But if you take some risks, step up when the times are the toughest, face down the bullies, lift up the downtrodden, and never, ever give up. If you do these things, the next generation and the generations that follow will live in a world far better than the one we have today. And what started here will indeed have changed the world for the better.
A supremely inspiring message, one I've played for my 7-year-old, from a fixture in modern American military history. That was Admiral William McRaven, whose resume includes overseeing just a handful of seismic world-changing events: the capture of Saddam Hussein, the rescue of Captain Richard Phillips, and the raid to kill Osama bin Laden. And the honor and dignity he showed during his time in the military spilled over into the political realm last summer, when Donald Trump revoked the security clearances from former intelligence officials, seemingly out of political retribution. Admiral McRaven wrote a letter to the president, published in the Washington Post, saying this in part, quote, "Revoke my security clearance too, Mr. President." Sadly and rather predictably, that op-ed struck a nerve with the president. The day after it was published, Trump said he didn't know who McRaven was, a startling statement for any president to make, but just on its face. But 3 months later, Trump circled back to the line of attack. Here's how he described McRaven.
Bill McRaven, retired admiral, Navy SEAL, 37 years, former head of U.S. Special Operations.
Hillary Clinton fan.
Special Operations.
Excuse me, Hillary Clinton fan.
Who led the operations, commanded the operations that took down Saddam Hussein and that killed Osama bin Laden, says that your sentiment is the greatest threat to democracy in his lifetime.
He's a Hillary Clinton backer and an Obama backer. And frankly,
he was a Navy SEAL.
Wouldn't it have been nice if we got Osama bin Laden a lot sooner than that? Wouldn't it have been nice? You know, think of this, living in Pakistan, beautifully in Pakistan, in what I guess they considered a nice mansion. I don't know, I've seen nicer.
I have no words. Joining us now, retired 4-star U.S. Navy Admiral William McRaven. He's out today with his new book, Sea Stories, My Life in Special Operations. I want to read a little bit from this book, but I had such a visceral reaction both to your speech, and I have played that video for my 7-year-old, and I think I threw a shoe at the television during that Chris Wallace interview. And good for Chris Wallace for basically saying, no, Mr. President, not a Hillary Clinton fan, an American hero. But even watching it now, it makes me sweat. What do you think?
Well, look, you know, I've said before, I hope the president does well. I want the president to do well, and I think every American should want the president to do well. As I've said before, you know, I had the great honor of working in the Bush White House on the National Security Council staff, and of course worked for President Obama as one of his commanders. And I didn't agree with either man on a lot of issues. But at the end of the day, they were easy to follow because they were men of great integrity and great character. And I think President Trump could take a few pointers from those two presidents.
Do you think anyone in the military thinks Donald Trump is easy to follow, that he has any of those attributes you just described?
Well, you know, the fact of the matter is the military is going to follow the commander-in-chief. That is their responsibility.
But is it easy to follow this one?
Well, you know, it is always challenging when you recognize that you're sending men and women into harm's way. So the president's got some great advisors. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Joe Dunford, is one of the finest officers I've ever worked with. I've met Pat Shanahan. He seems like a good man and a capable guy. I am hoping that the president will take their advice and counsel on the tough issues that he's dealing with.
Secretary Mattis resigned over policy dispute. He's the only one to do so. Are you surprised that more people haven't sort of used their resignations or used their positions to articulate differences with this president?
Yeah, you know, clearly Jim Mattis, you know, found a point at which he couldn't continue on, and Jim is again a close friend, and I will tell you one of the finest officers, one of the finest men I've known in my lifetime. And
Donald Trump called him a Democrat.
And I'm not sure I know what Jim's political leanings are. What I can tell you is he is a true American hero. But I think, you know, when you're in uniform, you have an obligation to follow the president unless the order is unlawful. So there are a lot of orders out there that I think folks in the military, regardless of which party the president's from, where the people in the military say, why are we doing this? But frankly, as long as the order is lawful and the president has the authority to do it, you are required by law to follow them, or you can resign. And frankly, there are times when you need your military leaders to follow and to do so in a thoughtful manner so that the country moves forward in challenging times in the right direction.
You've talked about some of the greatest threats to our democracy around attacks on the press, calling members of the media. Both these gentlemen go out to Trump rallies and they stand there with a notebook as their only shield to cover the president, what he says and what he does. He gets tens of thousands of people chanting enemy of the people about reporters doing their jobs. At a rally last night, they were chanting lock them up about the FBI.
Yeah, this is something that really does frustrate me. I gave a speech to the School of Communications at the University of Texas a couple of years ago when the president came out with his comments about the media being the enemy of the American people. And I did say at the time that I thought it was the greatest threat to democracy in my lifetime. And I stand by that comment. I mean, the fact of the matter is, all of those of us that have been in positions of authority, have been hit by the media. I mean, I've been raked over the coals by the media many times. But I will tell you, without the media, without freedom of expression, without, freedom of speech, we would not be the democracy we are. And to say that the press is the enemy of the American, Al-Qaeda is the enemy of the American people. The Nazis were the enemy of the American people. The press and the freedom of the press is absolutely essential. So I do get frustrated when the president attacks the press and the FBI and kind of questions our intelligence communities. Having said that, he is the president of the United States, and I think we have an obligation as civil servants to follow him until the orders are unlawful.
Well, a friend, you and I know his identity. We'll protect it for the purposes of the press. A former senior U.S. government official said you should be president, that the country would rally around you. Any chance?
No, I'm. I am firmly planted in Austin.
There was a man who ran for president from Austin once.
Yeah, there was. I mean, I guess you never say never, but the fact of the matter is I absolutely have no plans to run for president. Now, if the administration changes and somebody's interested in my support in a policy world, I might consider that, but I have no plans to run for president.
Let me unpack that up just a teeny bit. You have no plans, but if someone, your story, and I read your last book. And I want to read a little bit from this one because I think you're setting up some hope for people like me. You write in this new book, most of all, I learned that for all his faults, man is worthy of this world. For every reckless belligerent who seeks war, there are thoughtful, wise men and women who strive for peace. For all the unbridled hatred that abounds, there's an even greater amount of unconditional love. Man's passion far exceeds his greed. His caring is greater than his brutality. His courage outshines his cowardice, and his sense of hope always prevails. That is the salve to our gaping political wound.
Yeah, I think that was just my assessment of 37 years in the military and traveling around the world. It is easy to lose hope. You see kind of what's happening in D.C. today, and you wonder whether or not we have a bright future. And I continue to tell folks, I am probably the biggest fan of the millennials you'll ever meet. And we talk about the entitled, the pampered, the soft millennials, and I'm quick to say, then you never saw them in a firefight in Afghanistan. And having traveled around the world, and seen the worst of mankind. The Iraqi torture houses, what the Taliban did in Afghanistan to women. I mean, these are horrendous acts, and yet at the same time, you see incredible kindness, and you see people going out of their way to help other people. So in spite of all that I've seen, I have great hope for the future, and certainly great hope for America. And that's not political. There is nothing in this book that is political. It is not a political expose. Hopefully what it is a recognition that I was honored and fortunate enough to spend time with some great men and women in these remarkable tales that I tell in here from the bin Laden raid to the capture of Saddam Hussein, and really the credit belongs to the men and women who were part and parcel and part of those missions.
You give me hope, so I hope you'll come back and spend some time with us. Thank you.
My
Congrats
pleasure.
on the book. Go out and buy it. Admiral McRaven, thanks for spending time with us. The book is Sea Stories.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.